Right, I'm with Steve Broomhead here at the Town Hall, Chief Executive of Warrington Borough Council, for our annual catch-up to discuss issues which have been affecting the town over the past year and looking into the crystal ball of the future. Steve, the first question, it's one of the biggest issues, in fact it's probably the biggest issue facing the people of Warrington, is the traffic problems we consistently have in the town. I know over the years the council have tried to put new schemes in place to alleviate the traffic, but every time we have serious rain or there's slight road work or there's a bump on the motorways, we just come to total gridlock. What are the council doing to tackle this?
Well, there's no denying that this is an issue, but it is something the council has been responding to vigorously over the last year. You've seen the consultation on the Centre Park link, which is ongoing. That's to put a new bridge on Chester Road, a new blue bridge. We've done a lot of work around the individual motorway junctions, Junction 8, Junction 11, other schemes we've tried to put in place. So it's not a matter of not trying, but of course the volume of traffic and the location of Warrington in terms of its geography means that when there is a bump on the motorway, the Thelwall Viaduct is closed, we do have traffic congestion. But we are working actively around that. We're seeking further government support for infrastructure, particularly in the south of the borough. A new bridge over the Ship Canal is one of the ambitions we have for 2016. That will be my Christmas stocking. So it is an issue. We recognise it for businesses and for residents, but it's something we're working really hard on.
You touched there on the Centre Park link, this new bridge and new road that's going to be put in to try and alleviate these problems, certainly taking the traffic away from Bridgefoot. Do you not think that it might just move the bottleneck to a different part of town?
Well, there's always that as an issue. I mean, there's far too much traffic, and we need to encourage people not to use the car. That's clearly the issue. But public transport, that's not being as well developed as it could be in the town. That's another challenge. But certainly this scheme we're out for consultation on, I don't know what the answer to that is. Let the public decide what they want to say. We'll take account of what their views are when we decide to design the scheme.
Well, moving on from the traffic issues brings us nicely into the next subject about town centre regeneration. Now, that is going to add to the traffic problem because all the work that you're doing is going to regenerate the town centre. We're going to have a 2,000-seater cinema there. We're going to have all these new restaurants. The council offices are going to move in there. All these will add further to traffic congestion.
Well, we are designing that into the process of the town centre regeneration, and certainly would not put a 2,000 capacity cinema into Bridge Street without thought about car parking. That's why, as part of the scheme, there's going to be a brand new multi-storey car park. But the traffic infrastructure routeways around the town will be redesigned in relation to the investment that's been made, which is very, very positive. The Stadium Quarter, Bridge Street with the cinema and the leisure, new offices and a new market. They're things which will actually mean that the town has got a new lease of life from roughly 2017 onwards. And we've done that on our own as a council. We're taking the risks. We managed to get the money at very low rates by developing a bond, following a credit rating we've had from the city. So we're trying to do these things at risk, but always remembering that the taxpayer is paying the bill at the end of the day.
You mentioned the car parking there. Again, car parking is one of those issues people keep harping on about is, why do people have to pay to park in Warrington when they come shopping here, when they can park for free at Widnes, they can park for free at Trafford, they can park for free at other shopping centres? People, even though there is affordable car parking, people just don't seem to want to pay for it.
People tend to forget, Gary, the council only controls about a third of the car parks in the town centre. If we went free, would the private sector with their car parks go free? I don't know the answer to that. Every place is different. The Trafford Centre was a massive planning issue for the Manchester City Council when it decided to establish itself and have a massive free car park. The finances are different in Holton Borough Council than they are here in Warrington. So we are looking about our car parking charges again. I'm afraid at the moment there's a car parking charging regime in the town centre and in the suburb as well. I can't see that changing.
Okay. While we're on the subject of...
Nor do we make a lot of money out of car parking, no. Gary. Let me stress that. If you look at the RAC surveys, we're always at the bottom of the league in terms of the money we make from car parking compared to somewhere like York or Chester.
And I suppose, as you touched on before, you're trying to encourage people not to use the cars when they're coming into town.
We are, yes. I mean, I want to be realistic about that, but we are trying to do that, yeah.
While we're on the subject of the regeneration, then, if we move on to the Omega development, which we've talked on about for many years, and for quite a few years in the early days we ever wondered whether it was going to happen, but it's going at quite some pace now. I mean, at one time it was meant to be all about business related, but housing's going on there now. So what are your views on the Amiga development?
Well, we have to change your development in relation to where the market's going. So in terms of logistics centres, manufacturing, that's the major commercial investment that's going into Omega, and I can predict by this time next year it will be full in terms of commercial investment. The next stage is to develop the housing side of Omega. We expect planning application in for housing in the early part of next year. We're on site developing a new primary school. We might have to think about other schooling and other community facilities, but I'm really pleased after 15 years, both here and in the Regional Development Agency, the market response to Omega has been very, very positive.
These houses, though, are going to bring with them more traffic, aren't they?
Yeah, again, that's why we are redesigning Junction 8. We are putting in new roads. You can travel on them, I think, today all the way around the new commercial developments. It's not easy, Gary, to do this because you obviously have to think about the costs, the capital costs of putting new traffic infrastructure. But we do think about this every time we think about a new commercial investment.
These new properties will bring new council tax as well, so will that help?
It will help, but of course the council tax element is only a proportion of the total cost of the service of the council. So business rates, for instance, all the money we receive from business rates, we only get to keep 27% of the business rates. That may change towards the end of this Parliament, 2020. But again, we're trying to work out what that would mean for us if we're able to retain all of our business rates. And when you finish with the formula, teaming and ladling between local authorities, will we be any better off? I'm not certain. That's why we're doing the work.
While we're talking about the finances of the council then, you've had to make so many cuts, multi-million-pound cuts over the last few years, more cuts to make again. How much can you keep cutting without affecting frontline services?
It's been a very difficult issue for our elected members in terms of the cuts they're facing in this year. We have a £22 million gap as I sit here in front of you, Gary, to be bridged in terms of frontline services and other services. But there's no point about sitting here and whinging about it. You've got to be innovative, you've got to think about different ways of raising money, and that's why we've been doing loans, we've gone to the bond market. As I said earlier on, you have to be innovative and look at different ways of trying to find money, other than always going to the council tax, where we can only get a maximum of 2% rise anyway, which is a lot of money for those people who have to pay it because inflation's zero. I accept that. But this year it's going to be very, very challenging. We want to try and re-engineer some of our services, deliver better value for money. Look at the size of our back office. I am making changes to the size of the senior management team here. So basically trying to reduce services again without people out there realising that the front line has been cut back.
But we will come to a stage where you can't cut any more.
I think any council is going to have those decisions to be faced, and we're probably not far off making some rather more difficult decisions about our budget. But I think that will be probably 2 years out. So our elected members have got some very difficult decisions to reach, particularly about issues protecting and supporting those who are vulnerable.
Well, with your elected members, with the Boundary Commission recommendations now being almost rubber stamped, they've got to go through Parliament. They've not made any changes that I could see from what they were recommending, despite all the concerns about some local identities being lost. You're going to have one new extra elected member to worry about with all these cuts that you're facing in the future.
So it's going to be you, Gary.
Just what are your views on the Boundary Commission? What was the point of having all that public consultation when they just apparently don't listen to anybody?
Well, you should ask them, but I mean, I'm disappointed at the fact that the public did respond extremely heavily to the consultation phase. In the south of the town, there's a 700 signature petition about certain aspects of boundaries there. And the Electoral Commission, I have no control over at all. They've had all the information. They've come up with their final recommendations, which are now being laid in front of Parliament. I mean, essentially, they seem not to look at the issue of community and place. They look for electoral equality between the wards. And I think life is much more complex than that. So I am slightly disappointed as well. I have no control of what they can do.
And the biggest loser, putting politics to one side, is probably going to be Paul Kennedy, who's probably, is a good local councillor.
Paul's the other 57 members is a very good councillor. Unfortunately, Hatton and Stretton don't disappear off the map in Warrington, but in terms of a ward, that will now form part of the larger Appleton ward.
Okay, well thanks for your time as always, Stephen.
Gary, thanks for being the critical friend that you are to the council, keeping us on our toes, and all the best for Warrington Worldwide for 2016.
Okay, all the best, Stephen. Thank you.
Thank you.